All right, awesome. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how to overcome stage fright. I'm going to kind of tie this thing into being authentic as well. Um, and I think, talking about wishing the music industry was less competitive, this is all going to sort of start to make sense. There's a bigger picture with all three of these topics, um, which is about doing that inner work and making sure that what you're doing is really true for you, and it's that's more important than anything, any pain or discomfort that you can go through. What you're doing is more important than that. And yeah, so these are my tips for how to overcome stage fright. So yeah, we might talk a little bit about anxiety and things like that too in this sort of space, so that you can start to get some context around what's actually happening to you in that moment, and you've actually got some tools to actually process it. But I think the overarching thing here is that if you're experiencing fear in the future about something, it's because you subconsciously perceive that there's going to be more drawbacks than benefits. So you feel like you're going to lose more than you're going to gain. And so whenever you perceive that, your brain's primary purpose has two objectives: is to keep you safe and to conserve calories. So if your brain perceives subconsciously or consciously that there's going to be more downsides than benefits, you will not make a move in that direction. So your body is, you're going through this, I call it a clusterfuck. It's basically, there's the part of you that like loves music and wants to be on stage. It's like, this is the best, da, 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 da. And there's also part of you that's like, but what happens if I fail? And what happens if people don't like me? And what happens if I suck? And what happens if I fail at doing the thing that I love the most? I'm going to be a failure, and then I'm going to fail at failing. And then I'm like, oh. So this compound cluster of emotions basically is creating this situation where your brain's going, no, this is not a good idea. And you can experience, like, what I'm talking about, right? Like, you've had that experience of like, it's saying yes, it's saying no. So what I do with my clients is we want to dig into that, and we want to find these little, almost childlike selves. And if you're curious about how we develop our sense of self, this will all sort of make a bit more sense. That you basically, I'm going to do a quick little overview. So we basically create our sense of self through basically separating, and we do that through our senses: touch, taste, smell, sight, sound. And what happens, we basically have an experience, and then we categorize that experience either positive or negative, because we can't see it in its fullness. Because if we saw it in its entirety, we basically wouldn't be able to separate, because we basically, when we come into the world, we're basically in this state of mysticism or oneness with everything, and we can't see or tell the difference. So basically, we have to categorize everything as either good or bad, which is where our priority list comes from, and also where our voids come from, which is the things we think are most missing. So basically, what happens is that all of this stuff is like in our physiology and in our perceptions, and basically, it's like the iceberg in the Titanic. Most of it is all undercover. So if our highest values are music, we want people to see that in our public eye. And our voids are all of these things like, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't loved, my dad didn't say that he loved me, I wasn't important enough to be spent time with, I didn't have attention, people were unavailable emotionally, no one could actually understand or communicate to me or really care about me as a person. So all of this stuff is hidden from sight. So basically, once we go to do something, like say, for instance, go out on stage, all of this, stuff that's underneath that we're trying to not let people see, basically starts to come up. And so your body interprets that through thinking and feeling. So basically, we have this fear comes up inside our body, and we're like, oh, I don't know what this is. And the brain's like, this is bad. We've got to get out of here. Don't do it. But it's like, I love it. And all this stuff is like your priorities is your favorite thing, is like that top 5% are like, yeah, it's great. But all of this junk in your trunk, all these voids and past pains and things that are out of order and stories that you're telling yourself are actually just like way more powerful. And there's a battle between the conscious and the subconscious. The subconscious always wins. So if you're, you start exercising, you're like, sweet, exercising is mad. And then 2 weeks later, you're back on the couch with a beer and a pizza. It's because that whatever whatever that subconscious pattern is just like, your brain, when it interprets it, it's just like, this is all bad. I'm about to get eaten, or saber-toothed tiger's about to chew me up and spit me out. But because we can't, because we're not conscious of the fear and anxiety that's happening inside us, your brain just basically creates a situation where you just like, I can't do it. Because when you have that fear and anxiety, right, there was probably a time when you actually got on stage and it was fine, or you did something as a kid and performing in front of people wasn't an issue. And if it never was, I bet you there's somewhere in your life where you actually like remember, you're just like, yeah, I actually could do that. And you might need to dig a little to find that, unless your first experience was a really, really negative one, then maybe you don't have a positive experience of that. But there is a positive spin to it if we really look. And I know there'll be some people that are like, nah, there definitely isn't. But I guarantee you, if we look, we'll find it. And that's what I do. That's my job, is to basically hold that space for you while you do that inner work to find whatever it is you think is missing, and finding out in what form that it's in. And I guarantee you it's better than the story that you're telling yourself. And I know that because I am you. And I've gone through all of those things, and at every level, there's always something that's holding me back. But yeah, I'm very grateful that I have people now in my life that actually hold my hand and actually say, no, you'll be fine. And I just, get to do it. And like, delivering this content is exactly that. Like, I'm afraid of being here. But I know that this is more important than anything that I can experience in my physical body, or someone tells me, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, or you're not very good, or you don't have qualifications in mental health, and blah, 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 blah. I know that what I'm doing is more important than the pain that I would experience from that. And I know that's going to happen, because I have to go through that in order to stand on the other side of it. And shine and hold my flag with the Brett Cusack flag and be like, yeah, woohoo, I did my thing and now I'm authentically me. I just thought of one other thing that's cool for authenticity. Authenticity is being whole and showing people that you're good and bad, and you are awesome and you're also lazy, and you're smart and you're also stupid. And I think probably one of the coolest things for me is that just like, I just get to be me, and that's the key. And you've got to be okay with the fact that people aren't going to like that, you don't wear a suit, or you don't have hair, or your teeth are a little bit crooked, or you stumble sometimes, or the fact that you drink coffee while you're doing a presentation. And so all of these things, or people might not like my little, this is Sarah's little black money box there. If you're watching this, you're listening to this as a podcast, you probably don't get to see that, but you can jump across to YouTube and follow me and you can watch it there. Or people don't like my artwork, or people don't like the fact that I'm a musician, or people don't like my music. But if you are true to you, you will find the people that will follow you. And that's all we're looking for, right? As little kids, we want to look up at our parents. We're like, we want to feel safe and we want to feel certain. And if I only presented like, this really sleek, well-dressed, immaculate presentation, and like perfectly like white background, and like, I wouldn't be relatable because I'm not human enough. I'm just like this really, like, it's a magic show of all of the cool stuff. So yeah, I digress from back to being authentic, but yeah, allowing yourself permission to be a whole human being. And I think there's so much stuff out there that doesn't allow us to be vulnerable, and I think that's a real tragedy, because the fact that you can't cry, like as a man, like you can't cry in public, or you can't talk about your feelings and your emotions. And I was always drawn to that. I'm probably more androgynous. Like, I'm not this really, like, I don't have space in my life where I am this really masculine man. And then I'm also this more androgynous kind of creative, feminine, empath, where I actually connect with people and talk about feelings and emotions and all of those things. And I want to be both of those things in both spaces. And I don't want to hide half of myself in different environments. So I think, you're being authentic to you when you can be around your parents and be you. You can swear, you can talk about the things that are interesting to you. And if they support you, that's cool. And if they don't support you, that's cool too. But you want to make sure that, like, your parents are those people, those key fundamental, you know, people in your life that you grew up comparing yourself to. And when you can truly be yourself around your family, like that's a game changer. And so then, you know, that should be a goal for most people, to be their authentic selves around their family. And you know, that might drive a few people a little bit nutty hearing that, but yeah, I reckon I set that as a goal for you. Okay, so back to stage fright. So where I want to come to here is I want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing, I want you to go in and find a reason why it's important. Like, why is it really, really important? And so, you know, if you're on stage, I want you to go to that time where music really changed your life. And I want you to investigate what the feeling was that it gave you. And I want you to really get clear on the fact and the purpose as to why you want to be on stage, and why music is important to you and how it changed your life. Because as soon as you start to focus on the why and the reason, it becomes more important than any fear or bad thing that you feel like you can, that you're going to experience. And when you actually get clear about that reason, that's the thing that's going to draw you over the line to those next levels. And obviously we've talked about a whole bunch of different clusters of up, downs, right, wrong, good, bad scenarios that are playing out when you're experiencing all this anxiety. But when you actually start to put yourself in that space and give yourself permission to be crappy or whatever it is, to be able to share the message or to do the inspiring work or to make a difference in people's lives, that will basically help you get into that space so that you can actually practice being in that space and hold the space for yourself so that you can actually gain the confidence from doing the thing. Because you can only be a confident musician if you're doing the thing and you actually have control. So it's inner work, outer work. And yeah, it's kind of fascinating. I came out of my first personal development seminar, spent a couple of grand, did this amazing personal internal transformation, and came out and like, yeah, life is awesome. Everything's going to be cool now. Great. And then I was like, fuck, now I've got to do all this work outside of me in order to get to the next level, in order to get to the next thing that I want to be able to do. So we need to be in that space, helping people and having difficult conversations and whatever it is that we need to overcome in order to be able to gain confidence with ourselves in that thing. But we also need to be able to train our mind and focus in order to be mentally have that mental fortitude and strength to be able to change our position so we can actually get to that first thing. And with my experience of working on myself and seeing it in my mentors, clients, and my peers, and also working with my clients, is that once we deal with that mindset thing, we actually start to take those action steps. It doesn't make it any easier, which is the thing I want to ram home, is that life does not get any easier once you learn these skills, but it does enable you the ability to manage your emotions better, and you gain momentum because you can actually handle greater volatility with your emotions. Because 10 years ago, I'd get I'd freak out if someone like a bill came into my account for $400. I'm like, $400? Oh my God, my mom. But now I have $4,000 bills that pop into my account. I'm like, ooh, that's annoying. Oh, I think I got a $10,000 tax bill or something a couple of years ago. I was like, whoa, that's the next level. And those things that's my level of volatility. So so basically this is like, that's, once you get into the space, you've got to then learn to manage those emotions of the support and challenge. So I was also at that same point when I get bills for $4,000, I'm also making $4,000 in different areas of my career. So so now, I was making $400. I was like, yay. And then I was losing $400. I was like, oh, I'm now making $4,000. Whoa. And then I'm losing $4,000. Oh, so, those, and, in 10 years time, I'll be losing $40,000, making $40,000. And then in another 10 years time, I'll be making 4 million and then losing 4 million. So it basically, if you get to spend time with someone who has that different level, it'll kind of be the same thing with like kids. One person I don't want to say lose kids, but you have one kid and you are emotionally volatile when things are going well with that one kid. Then you have two kids, and then you learn to manage the emotions with that. And it could be the same thing with gigs and attendance, and it could be the same thing with friendship groups, and it could be whatever. So you basically, you can have one friend until you learn to manage one friend, then you get two friends, whatever it is, money, finances, physical health, all those things. You just get better at managing the volatility, emotional volatility with your life, and you can basically have better tools in order to get there. And so when you get better at managing a level, you get promoted to the next level, but you don't get promoted to the next level until you can handle what you got. Does that make sense? Hope so. All right, cool. Overcoming stage fright, get really clear on that big picture, and look at, I would write down what are all the stories I'm telling myself about this situation. Like what is all the things that I'm afraid I'm going to have that are going to go wrong, and just start to re-pivot those stories and say, no, I am capable of doing this. I've put in the work. I can help people, and starting to rewrite the story so that you can actually change your perception into something that's actually helping you. And that is going to be a skill and a half, learning how to do that on your own. So if you do need help, please reach out to me. All right, cool. We're going to move on now. Hopefully that was helpful on how to overcome stage fright. Just make sure it's more important than you. And remember to be realistic about how long it's going to take in order to get good at something. And talk to performance and ask them how long. Read biographies on your favorite artists and say, all right, how long does it take you to get good at performing? And like for me, I'm going through anxiety because I haven't performed in ages, and I want it to be awesome because I've got great new songs and they've got heaps higher notes in them. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna suck. And I'm like, yeah, you are gonna suck, but you can't not do it, because it's gonna show all your students and all the people around you that you're doing something.